All right, so I wanted to do a follow-up video from my previous video about, just continuing on with technology and social media and how it affects the way that we think. And I tried to do this recording before, and my cat ruined the recording, but that's not going to make it into this video. It's just kind of a fun fact. The thesis of this video is that there are conscious efforts to change the way that we think, and those efforts are being accomplished through social media. I have I read Surveillance Capitalism as the book. So if you're interested in this sort of thing and like how it came about, I would recommend that book. But it's a little verbose, just as a warning. And I think that the best example that I have for this, I have two examples of like the fact that social media companies, big tech, are interested in and actually enacting macro controls over how people think. One is the Britannica study scandal that happened back in 2016, where Facebook, it turned out, was running experiments on people, like Facebook users, to kind of see how their political beliefs might be shaped by altering their timelines. Maybe that's not the best description of what happened, but I think it's a widely known scandal, and it's kind of the fact that they got caught doing it and didn't really have to say that they were doing it makes it seem, the question is like they're probably doing a lot of it behind the scenes. So that's like a macro example of like, okay, if Facebook has the ability to control the way people might vote, then what are they doing? They have so much money and they have an interest in keeping the money. They could have customers come to them, not users of Facebook, but other companies, giant companies, or possibly like government interests, say like, hey, I need you to misdirect, or I need you to get people to think this way about this thing. So the Britannica study is an example of like, okay, they have the ability to do it, and they were doing it. And then the other example that I have where it's not as covert is this Galaxy AI commercial that I saw on YouTube. And it's literally like this young man who wakes up and his phone tells him to wake up. His phone tells him to like how he slept. Then he tells him what he's going to do during the day. And it's just kind of leading this guy through the day. And so that is like a not covert example of like, listen, they're designing the technology to tell you what to think and what to do with your day. That's, to me, it's really scary, because it's like I want autonomy in the way that I think. I kind of want to know that what I know is something that I came up with. Like, it's not something that's been incepted or like psyoped into my brain. And so like once you start to look for the edges of the Skinner box, you start to like see evidence of like, such as those two things that I mentioned, which is kind of scary. And but I think that it's also it's kind of a trap. It's not a trap, but it's you got to be really careful when you start to go down the rabbit hole of like, where is technology controlling us? How are they doing it? Because you don't know what you don't know. I have a little analogy here. Like I read another book called The Mountain in the Sea, and there's basically a robot in there that knows that he's a robot, but he was built by humans, so he has this little like back door in his brain where they can shut him off and like basically control him, and he won't know that he's being controlled. And so it's like, maybe social media has built that back door into all of our brains, and we just don't know about it. And but you have no way of proving that. Like, how do I truly know my thoughts are my own? So it's a not dangerous line of thought, but it's like you don't want to. You want to be critical about it. I guess critical. Be careful how much you think about it. But like, I do these videos, I want them to kind of be like, okay, present a problem, like discuss it, and then maybe some possible solutions. So I think I have at least some possible solutions. So like, one, like, well, first of all, be on the lookout for examples of this. I think that the biggest problem of our time, at least from like my point of view, is how do we use technology in a way that benefits us as humans and does not damage us at the same time. They kind of have this, big tech is holding this beautiful thing hostage. Like I do want to learn from the internet, but in order to use the internet, I kind of have to allow myself to be prey to psyops and like experiments, whatever they want to call it, like where they're slightly influencing how I think, and they being like big tech people, the people vested interests, maybe insurance companies or anybody with a lot of money can basically pay to customize someone's experience through ads or through algorithmic manipulation. So I think the biggest thing, one of the most important things that someone living in this age can do is be disciplined and be critical about how they're using these technologies, because it's still the Wild West, basically, for it. There's nobody coming to save us in terms of like government protection, because big tech, I mean, they were literally at the inauguration of the last president, so they are the government basically at this point in my eyes. So there's no one coming to save us. So be critical about it, but then at the same time, like, I'm trying to get to my solutions here rather than just doomer talk. You can still, at least we do still have some autonomy. You can pick and choose what you want to see, as long as you consciously go and search for it. You can still save links. I'll post actually something that's relevant to what I'm talking about right now is Invidious, which is a open source version of YouTube. Let me make sure I put that in here, so I remember to focus it. But it's an open source version of YouTube client where there's no ads and there's no feed. So you can still seek out an experience on the internet where you're not being led by the nose, basically, like that guy I mentioned in the Galaxy AI commercial. So at least you're still there. And then, like, I guess this isn't really a solution, but it's kind of a counterpoint. Like, okay, I want autonomy in my thoughts, and I want my thoughts to be my own, even if I lived in the woods and I lived in a cabin and I just read all the time. My thoughts would still be influenced by what I read. Like if I was just listening to classical music and doing, like, the best possible life, whatever, optimizing for mental clarity, my thoughts would still be influenced by what I was consuming. You are your environment. The difference with the big tech is that the environment is like now controlled by someone else who has an interest in telling you what to think. So it's not necessarily a bad thing that your thoughts and opinions are shaped by your experiences. But I think that the distinction is with big tech, it's like they kind of are holding that hostage, like I think. So I think in conclusion, I just think that this is like looking for manipulation of how you think and feel. Being aware of it is the biggest thing, that it's the battle that we have to fight as younger people, young-ish. I'm not old, but I'm not young. Youngish people right now is like we have to protect our critical thinking and protect our like autonomy and thoughts, because big tech is not gonna do that for us. They're just gonna keep exploiting our fears and heightening our emotions and all of this. Keep thinking critically and like looking for this type of thing, thinking about how you're using social media, kind of the same thing that I said in my last video, and be aware that it's when you're at your weakest, that's when you're the most susceptible to it. So if you are doom scrolling, or if you're angry, or if you're using too much scrolling as like an escapist, a way to escape, then that's when you probably are going to be more susceptible to like something like the Britannica study, or like, if you're just so stressed in your life and you're not really thinking about taking control of it, then that's when you are the guy being led around by his phone. Um, so you can see the edges of the Skinner box. Um, it's a stressful thing to think about, so don't think about it too much, but try and strike a balance where you are thinking about it and aware of it, and kind of at least going on the journey of like, okay, how, what's going on here? Maybe there's people that have interest in manipulating the way that I think.